that's odd. But there's an Apple remote. So I don't know. What's 99 times 100? 990, 9,900. Right. Okay. So anyway, you'd sell that many, and you'd figure out what the profit would be, and then you could also figure like, well, what would happen if they sold those same things at $49? Well, they'd sell a lot more, but if they sold that many more, let's just say they sold 300 at $49, would that make them more money? And that's basically the questions they're always asking at any kind of a store. Like, well, we know that if we drop the price, we'll sell more of them, but how many more will we sell? Will it make sense for us to sell them at the lower price, or should we sell fewer at the higher price and make more money that way? So those are the questions that they're always asking. So anyway, your P's always match up with your Q's. So your prices always match up with your quantities. So price 2 always matches up with quantity 2, and price 1 always matches up with quantity 1. So what I'm asking you to do over on the right-hand side, and this is one where, if you'll remember, those who were brave enough to attempt this thing, I said, okay, show me now a decrease in quantity demanded. A lot of you went ahead and you drew an opposite curve because you thought, oh, yeah, it's the opposite. But no, it's not the opposite. It's still a demand curve, right? Because you're still doing quantity demanded. It's still a demand curve. But what you're going to do here is show a decrease in the quantity demanded. Show your first quantity will be to the right of your second quantity here, because you are, once again, you're moving in that direction. Now, look, I put an arrow there because I get screwed up on this stuff too. I might have screwed this up and I'm just re-recording it. There's ample opportunity to get yourself turned around on these things. But anyway, I didn't. Here it is. It's perfect. I match up my quantity with my demand curve, and now I'm going to draw a little line over here, but that's just to show that there's a relationship between these things. Now, is this P1 or P2? Well, this is quantity 1, so it should be price 1. And then this one over here, hey, that's quantity 2, and that will match with price 2. And is that what happens, Hey, look at that. The price went up. The price went up from, whatever, $49 to $99. And the amount that people were willing to buy at the higher price is lower. That's exactly what happens with demand. Okay, so we're going to move on. And now we're going to add our supply curve, right? So here's our supply information, your price and your quantities. So we come back up here, and let's see, at 50 cents, it's 2, right? At 50 cents, it's 2. There it is. Actually, I'm going to do a different color. And just to make it a little bit more easy to read. And at 50 cents, the price is 2. And at $1, the quantity is 6. And at $1.50, it's 10. All right. And $2.50, it's 14. And it should match up with that. That's right. That's where they intersect. $2.50 is 14. $3.50, 16. Right. $4.50, 18. All right. And $6.20. $6.20. All right, and we draw a line of best fit to hook all these things together. You don't have to be that careful about it. And then I think the directions say to label this supply, or S1. All right, so we're on our way. Pretty easy here. Let's go through this. All right, here we go. Use the graph drawing, blah, 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 blah. Label the curve, done. We did that. Why does the supply curve have a positive slope? Hey, now this is the harder part, I think, of the things, because you have to sort of imagine what suppliers, what the makers of something would do. And a lot of you don't really think of yourself as a supplier. This is where my babysitting example kind of comes in, or my chores example. You guys are suppliers of time at this point. Some of you are suppliers of labor in all kinds of local colony businesses, and you work at Moe's or whatever. But let's just say you work 20 hours a week at Moe's at $15 an hour. Would you work more hours if they paid you $30 an hour? Now, some of you will be like, well, that means I could work half as much and get paid just as much. That's true, but most people would rearrange their schedules so that they could actually work more, because it is so much more worth it for them to do that. In fact, at $30 an hour, I suspect a lot of you might drop out of school, because at $30 an hour, you're like, hey man, that is just so attractive to me. I am going to take every Friday off so I can do a double shift or whatever. All right, so anyway, so the supply curve has a positive slope because manufacturers, whether it's gas or you guys making gaseous foods, is increases as the price goes up. So manufacturers, suppliers are willing to supply, or I'm going to call it make, they're willing to make more at higher prices. I should change that. But anyway, that's true. Suppliers are willing to make more at higher prices. So, if you're looking at this, right, I don't know if you pay attention to the news. This is a gas example, but this is exactly what's going on right now. Like right now, there are a bunch of places in America that make, they basically extract oil from shale rock. And it's very expensive to do this. It's really, really not worth it at low oil prices. And I don't know if you've observed, but what's happened with coronavirus and also a price war between the Russians and the Saudis is the price of a barrel of oil has fallen precipitously. It's basically half as much now as it was at the beginning of this year. And so what you're seeing is a lot of American manufacturers who do this expensive fracking process to get oil out of the rock. They're basically laying everybody off, saying, hey, it's not worth it for us to make oil at this moment. We are going to stop. And what that's basically saying is that they are supplying less. There will be less. Now, of course, you all may understand, well, if you look into the future, you may say, well, that will mean there will be less oil and the price will go up. True. But all of these things that we're talking about right here have to do with this snapshot mentality of right in this moment, in this instant, this snapshot, what happens is that we will supply less. So when the price of gas increases, what happens to the amount that producers are willing to make? They will make more. And if the price goes down, they will make less. Good. Okay. And this is the law of supply. also known as the price effect. And the price effect states, these are the rules of the price effect, that a change in price will always result in a change in quantity supplied. Whoops. And then if you have an increase in price, there will be an increase in quantity supplied. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but my wife is in the office. She's on a conference call with I don't know, all these people at RPI, and they're trying to put up their Corona web pages for information, and it's just completely crazy. Anyway, so there's a decrease in price, and that will result in a decrease in quantity demanded. Oh, whoops, supplied. See, I screwed up. Quantity supplied. Right, there you go. All right. So this is the law of supply. Sun's coming out. That's nice. So here I'm asking you guys again, and the problem is I can't do this anymore. I can't go and check over your shoulder and be obnoxious and stop in at your various pods in the room and harass people for not doing their work or whatever. Well, that's all right, because I hated doing that. I think you could probably tell. But anyway, so here you go. In the space below, illustrate the following. An increase in quantity supplied. All right, so I'm going to just give you some more tips here. When you draw these graphs, there's a certain order of operations that perhaps you should follow. And the first thing you do, usually, like if I'm giving you a blank piece of paper, and that's coming, guys, is you draw your axes and you label them P and Q. Once you've done that, then you can't get confused. P and Q. Label your axes P and Q. Done. All right? The next thing you should do is figure out, are you drawing a supply curve or a demand curve? Now, both of these are supply curves. So that means that you draw this, and I'm going to label over here, because they're both supply curves. A decrease in quantity supplied, an increase in quantity supplied. There it is. Now, with the first one, A, this one, you want an increase. So which way should you go on your quantity axis? Which way? Should you go to the right, or should you go to the left? Well, if it's an increase, you should go right. Increase is always right. So that means that your first quantity, Q1, should be to the left of Q2. That gives you an increase. And now I just need to connect these to prices. That's all I got to do. So with quantity 1, I'll intersect with my supply graph. Is that quantity 1? Is that P1 or P2? That should be P1, because it goes with quantity 1. The next one over here, quantity 2, goes with price 2. That's an increase in price, and obviously an increase in price has resulted